All right, good morning, everyone, for your routine weekly briefing here for Central North Carolina. This is meteorologist Andrew Kren here for the National Weather Service in Raleigh. We're talking about the upcoming week for Monday through Sunday of this week. Before we go into some of the specifics of the forecast, I wanted to show you what's going on in the mid-levels of the atmosphere right now. This is basically our latest water vapor satellite image. Kind of gives us a depiction of where the moisture is and where our low pressure and high pressure circulation centers are. Main thing to point out here is that we have this area of low pressure kind of in the midsection of the country, located over like southwest Missouri. And that system is going to be kind of rotating around the Midwest and moving into the Ohio Valley later this week, and eventually moving towards the mid-Atlantic for the upcoming weekend. The impacts of that system is going to continue to give us hot and humid conditions, temperatures in the upper 80s to lower 90s much of this week. And it's also continued to give us a lot of moisture coming in from the Gulf of Mexico and the Western Atlantic. We also have a ridge of high pressure kind of off the coast of North Carolina, and that ridge is going to move westward as we get into the middle part of the week. And so we're going to continue to see warm and humid conditions, but we are going to have each day this week off and on showers, storms throughout much of the week with the interaction of that mid-level low pressure system. So it's going to be kind of a typical summer type pattern this week across central North Carolina. So for the upcoming weather pattern, let's go from today through the upcoming week. These are our latest surface maps. Basically, some of the key points to point out is that we have isolated to scattered afternoon, evening thunderstorms that will be possible each day this week. We do think that there will be less precipitation chances come midweek, roughly by Wednesday, but then we'll see an uptick again, increasing late in the week as we see that area of low pressure kind of move back into the area from the Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic region. And that ridge of high pressure will kind of slowly sink back to the south. We'll see warm and humid temperatures much of the week, ranging from upper 80s to the lower 90s, so your typical summer type pattern here for early June. There is some hints that we could see some possible cooler and drier weather for the upcoming weekend. There is some uncertainty, but some of the guidance is showing that we may see a drier pattern and some potential cooler conditions for the upcoming weekend. So we'll look forward to that if that actually pans out. Looking into our severe thunderstorm potential for days 1 through 7, we don't see any organized severe thunderstorm activity expected for the next 3 days and perhaps even through Friday. Just going to be your typical summer type storms where they develop in the afternoon and the early evening hours and kind of taper off mid to late evening after sunset. We're not expecting anything severe at this point. Looking at our accumulated precipitation forecast through the next 7 days, key points to really mention here. We did mention off and on shower and storm activity each and every day. It's going to be hard to pinpoint where these storms form just because we don't have any kind of large cold front or warm front over the area. So they will kind of pop up in various parts of the state and across central North Carolina. But those that do form could produce some locally heavy rain, which will be possible at times, with some potential isolated minor flooding, and that will be mainly for our urban areas. Again, storm chances will be favored at the beginning and the latter part of the week, with a drier midweek pattern, and then an eventual uptick Friday and potentially early Saturday. Amounts through the week, amounts each day roughly will be about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch, but certainly we can definitely see higher amounts in some of the stronger storms that do develop. And our roughly 7-day total precipitation outlook across North Carolina will be anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of rain. So we've seen some rain in the last 7 days, as I'll show a graphic of that here shortly. But we'll continue to see potential rainfall this week, which will help us with our current drought conditions. Looking in the tropics is overall still quiet, but we are starting to see some activity. The National Hurricane Center has depicted an area of low pressure that is expected to develop near Central America come Thursday or Friday, so it's well to our south. We're not expecting any tropical cyclone formation over North Carolina over the next 5 days. A relatively low chance that this area of low pressure over Central America, that there's a low chance that that may develop into a tropical cyclone at this point. I mentioned earlier our latest drought. So this is the latest drought monitor over Central North Carolina, and there has been some changes from last week. The abnormally dry and moderate drought has kind of expanded across much of the state. And there was also an introduction of a severe drought kind of over the far southeastern part of our state, and southern Sampson County was introduced into part of that severe drought area as well. But the good news is that over the last 7 days, this is the radar estimated storm total precipitation across North Carolina. And I have basically, on top of this map, I have our latest drought conditions. So you can see that where we have seen a lot of rainfall in the last 7 days has been roughly where we've seen some of that drought. So we've seen some beneficial rain, which has potentially helped to mitigate some of that drought conditions. We've seen roughly lesser amounts in the triad, generally a half an inch or less up there, ranging from 1 to 4 inches in parts of the triangle. And really in Johnston County, Wayne, and Wilson County, they kind of saw the most amount of rain with about 3 to 6 inches up there. So we've seen some beneficial rain, and we're going to see roughly 1 to 2 inches of rain for much of this week. So hopefully we'll see our drought conditions improving by next week. Looking into our 6 to 10 day outlook, this is courtesy of the Climate Prediction Center. The main takeaway here is that above average temperatures are favored next week, as well as above normal precipitation. So looking at an overall summary for our week, isolated to scattered showers and storms will be possible each day, potentially largely favored today and tomorrow, lesser chances on Wednesday, and then an eventual uptick later in the week, Thursday and Friday. Any one of those storms that may produce some locally heavy downpours, produce some isolated minor flooding, mainly in urban areas. Temperatures much of the week ranging from the upper 80s to lower 90s, your typical summer pattern with those muggy conditions in place. And some hints that we may see a slightly drier and cooler weather pattern coming up for the weekend.